passion and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Welcome back. Second hour is live. We've had a very busy first hour with Rittenberg and Rory. Hope to get some more guests coming up here in a few minutes, including Matt Hayes on the CFP. Your phone calls continue right now. And let's check in with Charles, who is up next. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you've been getting a lot of calls about Mizzou basketball today, and I think there's a good reason for that. I'm just wanting to know what more do you need to see out of them? You said you want to see more.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to see. I made it very clear, just some consistency. You can't have an epic performance on a Wednesday night beating Alabama by double digits and then throw it all away against Arkansas, who is one of the bottom dwellers in the league. Yeah,
I mean, I get that, and we obviously didn't play great.
But we're talking about the NCAA tournament where you need consistency, and that's all I'm saying. We had Coach Gates on the other day, and I can't be more impressed with the man. But to go somewhere in the tournament, you have to have back-to-back performances. You can't just have a great performance and then a spotty one, or otherwise you'll be home quickly.
Yeah, I just think, they've consistently competed with top teams in SEC and even in their non-conference, and we have Caleb Grill, who's just the greatest shooter in the world right now. That guy's electric.
Listen, I'm not down. I was just giving an honest opinion. I can tell you you're going to win the national championship if you want, although I'll be misleading you.
All right.
Hey, thanks for the call. That's all I was talking about. I'm not coming down. I thought our conversation with Gates last Thursday was one of the best we've had all year. Haley is up next in Starkville, Mississippi. Hello, Haley.
Hi, Paul.
Hey there.
So my question today is about Mardi Gras. Where do you think it originated? Yes, where do you think it originated, in Mobile or New Orleans?
Well, I know where it originated. It originated in Mobile, Alabama.
But New Orleans tries to claim that it started there.
Well, if you walk down the streets of Manhattan or Los Angeles or Chicago and you ask them about Mardi Gras, they will probably never have heard of Mobile, Alabama. So I blame the people of Mobile. I blame somebody did a poor job of letting New Orleans hijack the holiday.
I agree.
Now, let me ask you a question, Haley. I've been to both many, many times. I used to spend an enormous amount of time in Mobile, and obviously I've been to New Orleans countless times. Mm-hmm. Where would you rather spend a week in February, in Mobile or New Orleans?
NOLA. New Orleans.
And, Mobile is perfectly nice, but it is not New Orleans.
I love it. My kind of guy.
Well, yeah, but that's one of the old. It's like, hey, did you? I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Mobile for something, and somebody will say, well, hey, did you realize how Mardi Gras started here? Yeah, but where did it end up? Is what I try to. Yeah. But they do take Mardi Gras seriously in Mobile. They take it more seriously in New Orleans. MJ is up next in Houston.
Hey, how you doing, man?
We are doing great, thank you.
Yes, I thought, man, you was never going to get to me. I understand you got a lot of callers. Hey, man, I wanted to ask you something about that annual tournament you run.
Yeah.
With the bracket matchups, exactly how does that work, and how can I participate?
Well, we usually have this in March, don't we? Yeah, so what we try to do is when everybody's talking brackets and March Madness, we try to have our caller bracket for Caller of the Year, which was won last year by Legend, wasn't it? He's a 4 or 5 time winner. I can't even remember. He's won so many times. And what you have to do, MJ, is you have to get on the radar of the folks in the back room, and then once you do, you become part of the tournament. Would you like to be considered?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let me do a little drill here because have you called before?
Yes, I have, and then that's something else I wanted to hit on in just a moment about LeBron James.
Okay. We'll go right ahead.
Yeah. What I want to say about LeBron, man, don't you think it's time, man, all the MJ lovers, that they put a bow and a stamp on it, man, and just recognize recognize that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time?
So you're telling me that you think LeBron is the greatest of all time versus MJ?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and now your nickname is MJ. Is your nickname MJ?
I can give you a plethora of reasons why, but I know we don't have time for it.
Well, no. By the way, I don't need a plethora. I just need one.
Well, for one, he came straight out of high school and made an instant impact on the NBA when Jordan struggled his first few years, and he was straight out of college.
Well, MJ, listen, it's not like he was unknown in college. I mean, he pretty much hit the winning shot for the NCAA championship. But
he struggled when he entered the NBA, unlike LeBron, who made an instant.
He did. I would agree. He had a hard time, but how did it end up for him?
And LeBron James also never quit for 2 years.
Well, I think you sound like a smart guy. I would argue that Michael Jordan didn't quit either. I happened to be around Michael a lot during those 2 years because I was in Birmingham when he was playing minor league baseball. And I think you know as well as everyone that he was told he can't play those 2 years.
Oh, man, speculation.
Well, I think it's more than speculation, but Michael Jordan, I think, was Rookie of the Year, wasn't he?
And can Michael Jordan, did he play all 5 positions?
I think LeBron is great, but he's not Michael Jordan.
In what facet? Because
how about
Jordan
in any facet? Michael Jordan, to me, is the greatest competitor of all time.
No, when it comes to shooting, he may have been a better scorer than LeBron James, but as far as all the way around player, you have to get that nod to LeBron, man, because LeBron can do, like I mentioned earlier, a plethora of things, and he made an impact instantaneously when he came into the league, unlike Jordan, like I mentioned before.
MJ, do you not consider being Rookie of the Year a fairly big impact?
Yes, it has. That's a major accomplishment.
Okay,
but
you act like he was voted worst draft choice his first year with the Bulls.
No, he was. Matter of fact, the only player. And
he was all NBA first team his second season. That's not exactly a struggle.
No, don't get me wrong. I didn't say Jordan wasn't.
I mean, you just kind of walked in here and said,
I
need to be in the bracket, and I'm telling you right now, LeBron's better. I mean, that's fine, but I mean that's a debate that I frankly thought was already settled. But I'm not an NBA expert.
But LeBron was known for being an assist man, and now look at the leaderboard of the NBA all-time leading scorers, and tell me who's number one.
Oh, I really don't even know.
You don't know who's the greatest scorer of NBA history?
I do know LeBron James is, okay.
Yes, clearly. So he was known as being, and he's one of the best passers that has ever played the game. He's one of the best defenders that have ever played the game. Not saying that Jordan wasn't a great defender, but there are more things that LeBron has done great versus what Jordan has done. And also, he's much better than MJ off the court.
Well, one has 6 titles, one has 4. That to me matters.
Every team LeBron played with, he was like a Deion Sanders. Wherever he went, they won.
Michael only played 15 years. LeBron's on his 40th year now.
Incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
You're going to make me bring Kobe Bryant into this conversation?
Oh, Kobe cannot compare to LeBron, man. Kobe was a great player, but he's one of my top 10 players of all time, along with Akeem, Kareem, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, along with LeBron and Jordan Magic Johnson. But Kobe Bryant is not a LeBron James.
Okay, well, listen, we need to leave it here, MJ. We'll come right back. Stephen A. Smith and Kirk will join us next in this conversation. We're back after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Are continuing here. Expired is up next.
What's going on, Paul? How you doing today?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, apparently now there's two MJs. Okay, one is a Hall of Famer, and one wants to be a Hall of Fame caller. Okay? And I will say this, Paul, that was one of the worst calls. And let me give the new MJ, I think that's his name, some tips. Okay, number one, when you call in, you don't really need to ask to be in the bracket. The guys in the back are going to put you on if you're deserving or not. Okay. Number two, I'm not sure if it's your first call. The greatest thing you can do is call in about NBA basketball. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying we like to talk about SEC. Number three, if you're going to talk about NBA basketball, don't bring a bunch of crap that LeBron's better than Michael Jordan. Paul, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. What do you say?
Well, it's a conversation, but first of all, if you're trying to advance on this program, that is not what I would recommend. I mean, by the way, if he'd said, listen, I think Bear Bryant's a better coach than Nick Saban, that's a fair conversation. You can debate that.
That's a great conversation.
Newt Rockne versus Bob Nealon, but don't come in here on a show. First of all, it shows your lack of awareness of where you are.
Exactly. I mean, that dude needs to call Stephen A. Smith or whatever his name is at ESPN. They can talk with Greeny and all them guys, talk about the Knicks and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. People can talk about what they want to on the show. That's what makes it great. But my first call ain't gonna be that. I'm just trying to give the guys some help. Hey, call in and talk. Whoever you root for, talk about how they're going to win the national title next year, even though, like, you know, I do it every year and it ain't going to happen at A&M. Hell, Paul, did you hear yesterday? Gavin Grahovac, All-American third baseman for A&M, out for the year. That's
I did not hear that. Wow, that's a tough break.
Battered Aggie syndrome 101. Just living that life, Paul. Can't get through it. Can't get over it. We still got a shot because we got some really good starting pitching and a lot of good hitters. But, man, losing an All-American's tough, not making excuses. But isn't it amazing what the state of Texas is doing right now? A&M baseball, number one. I hate to say it, Longhorns are number one in girls basketball. Their baseball team's pretty good. Our boys basketball team is unbelievable. And they're number one in softball, and we're number 5. That's pretty impressive there, Paul.
Great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Logan is up next. Hello, Logan.
Hey, Paul, I can't believe I'm going to agree with Expired. I think that MJ played himself right out of the bracket with a call about the NBA.
Yeah, no, he's right now. That is not going over well with the committee.
I hear you, man. So I don't think he's going to make it. Hey, Paul, let me ask you. This football season, 2025 season, or I heard that they might be going to redo the seating. 1 through 12. Have you heard anything about that? Is that going to be possible?
I would say it is highly unlikely. That is being discussed right now. It would take a unanimous vote, and I don't think there's any chance they'll get a unanimous vote.
Okay, and then what have you heard about the championship games? Because they seem to be redundant now. Are they going to be talking about that?
Well, that's a separate issue, the SEC championship game, the ACC, the Big Ten. There's a lot of proposals being bantied about where you would end up maybe having more than one game in Atlanta, a couple of games, but they have no clarity on that yet.
Okay. I had just heard some rumors that they were going to do some kind of like tournament or something.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are all over that. It hasn't happened yet, Logan. Hey, good to hear from you. Thank you. Chris is up next.
Hey, Paul, how you doing today, Paul?
Chris.
But to go ahead and end, I knew we couldn't agree for long. You finna say that MJ was better than LeBron, and we ain't gonna get into this conversation, but I'm gonna say one thing. LeBron James is the only NBA player that came out that could start every spot 1 through 5 on offense and defense. End of story. We're gonna go with LeBron James.
I didn't come out here and say LeBron James is a stiff. I mean, I just simply said Michael Jordan was better. That is not really a shot at LeBron.
Michael Jordan is the best clutch player, but let's put it that way. He's the best
by the way,
player.
I really don't even care anymore.
Hey, all right. Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna do one for you, Paul. Since the day kind of been bad for me, I'm gonna try out a joke. It was three kids that went to school that had a homework assignment. They said the teacher told them to go find something interesting about your daddy. The first kid came and he said, "Hey, my daddy's a lawyer. He hates people with his case." The second kid said, "Hey, my daddy's a doctor. He helps sick people." The third kid said, "Hey, my daddy eat light bulbs." The teacher said, "How?" He said, "I heard him tell my mama last night, cut the light off so I can eat that thing." Have a nice day, Paul.
We are well on our way of maybe some of the worst. By the way, breaking news: bracketology debuts on Friday. That's not the field. That's a projection, right? So the committee's back in the other room. I saw the vending machines have been completely ransacked, so they're working hard. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Dan up next in North Carolina. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Paul. Back to college football for a minute, if you will. In your opinion, what is the one issue that has caused college football to be in the state that it is, in your opinion?
I think I would start with unlimited transferring, where there's no rhyme or reason to being able to hold on to a player, and then that enters into the second part of it, which is the money part, where not only can you transfer, you can look for a better deal.
Yes, my pick was NIL. And secondly, obviously, this whole thing has thrown not only myself, but many of your viewers who have had some very interesting comments. How about this for a resolution, Paul? Instead of won and loss, how about a point system where you would have 5 points for a win or 4 points for a loss if you score more than 21 points, 3 points if you throw for 275 yards or more, or 150 yards, you get 3 points, 2 points for a field goal, etc. What at the end of the year, you would add all these points up, and whoever's in the top 4, regardless of one, well, it wouldn't be regardless of won or loss, but it would seem that it would clearly identify who's the top 4 teams. Each of the conferences would do that, and it would eliminate, if you will, some of the teams in other conferences that would not have accumulated a certain number of points, or at least more than the other team. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, I mean, all these are interesting concepts, Dan. There's virtually no chance of any of them ever being implemented. Thank you very much for the call. Why don't we take a short break here? We have Matt Hayes waiting, get his take on what's going on in Dallas right now, what the future of the CFP is going to look like right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
It is going on right now in Dallas. Perhaps there could be some impact for this year, although that is not expected. Let's check in with Matt Hayes from USA Today, get his view on where we are in college football. Matt, always great to speak to you. So what do you think? What does this committee need to do to make this sport more interesting?
I think they're on their way right now, Paul. I mean, honestly, I think if you're looking at what's going on, the step-by-step process, the foundation of it all is they're trying to stay financially viable. You know, once they move to pay-for-play, you're talking about a significant percentage of money from these guys' budgets, from each school's budget, going to pay student athletes in all sports, not just football. So I think they're trying to stay financially solvent by adding more games, adding the play-in games during championship week, expanding to 14 or 16 teams in the playoff beginning in 2026. They're trying to find ways to generate revenue because they're losing a lot of revenue. And will it make it more interesting? A lot of people think so, but look, I can see the other side of it too, Paul. I mean, this sport has lasted and grown year after year for a long time because of its unique ability and how it finds a national champion, and how it's just completely different in a matter of 3 or 4 years.
Matt, you know what the criticism is. Some have screamed elitism, bullying, just fill in the blank. It's out there, and everybody has had an opinion. Does that really matter, or do you think the SEC and the Big Ten are looking, however you want to describe it, but a lot of people don't think it's a very good look right now?
I mean, it's not. If you're talking about just the PR lens, of course it's not a good look. But also at the end of the day, look, the television people that televise these games, that produce these games, they want the SEC and the Big Ten, and the SEC and the Big Ten know that. And their ultimate trump card is, look, if you don't do what we do, we'll take our ball and take the playoff and go somewhere else without you guys. And that's why I think today is so interesting, because there's 1 year left on the original deal, which means all 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame have to agree on any format change in 2025. And, of course, the SEC and the Big Ten want a straight seed, 1 through 12, instead of the top 4 conference champions getting the first 4-round buys. And, that's a loss of $4 million for the ACC and the Big 12 if they agree to that and they don't become one of those top 4 teams. So let's see how they negotiate. My guess is they're going to say, we'll go to straight siege if you make us financially whole no matter what. And my guess is the SEC and the Big 10 will agree to that. But if I'm the Big 12 and I'm the ACC, I take it a little further than that. I think I start to look at down the road CFP, start talking about, all right, if you want it this bad, how badly do you really want it? And if you want it really badly just for 2025, what kind of financial assurances can we get in 2026 and beyond? Because the SEC and the Big Ten control the payout of this thing moving forward, starting in 2026. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of this meeting and what happens.
Matt, a couple other issues. It's been debated for years. It looks like it's close, and that is the SEC moving to 9 conference games. Where are you on that?
It's smart. I mean, if you're going to go to 14 or 16, I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, you're talking about the way ticket prices are going. You have to give fans and people that go to your games and buy your apparel and buy stuff from you, you've got to give them a reason to go to these games. And games against Paul, Florida's playing Long Island this year. Long Island. It's embarrassing. You got to give them reasons to go to a game, and I think it's good. You play 9 games, you get a very good idea of where you are as far as the conference and where you are as far as if they go with these playing games. The 6 or 8 teams that you feel like are the teams for your playing. You get an idea after playing 9 games. There's no doubt.
And Matt, how does the SEC, and everyone for that matter, but the SEC in particular, solve the issue, assuming all this goes into play, of the conference championship weekend?
It's a great question. I mean, there's big debate within the SEC and the Big Ten about that. The SEC wants to keep the championship game because it's part of the fabric of who they are. It's what made them so unique over the last 2-3 decades. And the idea is if you get to a championship week where you have play-in games, how important will your championship game be? Or do you even have a championship game? Do you just say, okay, we have a regular season champion, and the top 8 teams, the winners of those 4 games, advance to the playoff? You play 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, and on down the road like that. So that's still your reason for having a strong regular season, because you're trying to play into seeding for the play-in games to even get to the playoff.
Do you think that is really doable to have that many games on that weekend, considering all the complaints you're getting from coaches about the length of the season and the wear and tear?
Not only do I think it's doable, Paul, I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I do. I really do. You're talking about the Big Ten and the SEC go from 1 game to 8 games. The Big 12 and the ACC go from 1 game to 2 games each. So that's 12 games instead of 4. And I think you spread them out over Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so they don't go on top of each other. They'll find a way, Paul. This is, like I said earlier, this is more about staying financially solvable than it is anything else, honestly.
So help me understand it, though. we have the conference championship game, which we all know what that is. It's a celebration. It's a lot of activations of various sorts. So what have you? I know you're talking to ADs a lot. You're always quoting them. I realize you can't make a perfect analysis, but how would you draw that up on the board in terms of where these games are, and is there a central location for any of them?
Well, I think it depends on if they keep the championship game, Paul. I think like if they decide to just name the regular season champion the champion, and then you go 1 through 8, as far as playing games, then it's just home campus. It's campus sites. The first 4 are the home teams. The first 4 ranked, I should say. And if you decide that you're going to play the championship game, and no matter who's in the championship game, they're going to the playoffs. And then you have 4 more teams playing in. Then once again it'll be those. The first 2 teams with the best records will host the other 2 games. So I mean, there's a lot, or 3 games I should say. So there's a lot going on, but I think it all really starts with: do you want to keep the SEC championship game, or do you want to go to a straight 8-team play-in?
I'm trying to do the math in my head, but just for the sake of argument, let's say the number 1 seed going in would be either Georgia or Texas last year. I'm trying to who would it have been? Would it have been probably Georgia?
It would have been Texas, because Texas had 1 loss.
So I mean, you got let's say a Missouri, Texas, LSU, Georgia. I mean, these games sound maybe better than they. I mean, do you think there's really going to be an appetite for those type of, especially the 2 versus 7 and 1 versus 8?
I mean, if Paul, if you have a spot in the playoff on the line, I absolutely think there'll be an appetite for it. And more than anything, I think there'll be an appetite from television for it. And I do think the fans, fans were all complaining about the playoff, and they didn't. I thought it was going to hurt the sport, and then they all loved it when it got it. And I know that the ratings weren't as good, but the ratings also weren't as good because now they're going up against the NFL, and that's a difficult beast for any sport to go up against.
Well, you still would have the NFL on Thursday. On Friday night, guess what you have? You have high school football, and that's a 45-year-old debate.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, any way you look at it, they're going to run into problems, and they're going to run into obstacles that they have to figure out. But at the end of the day, the superseding thing is they have to find a way to generate revenue. They're paying players now $20 million just this year. That little salary pool, or whatever they want to call it, it's really a cap, is only going to increase. So they have to figure out ways to generate revenue.
Many thanks, Matt. Really appreciate it. Matt Hayes from USA Today. Just to think about something Matt said there, and I'm talking of the SEC only. That's not the only conference that would be doing this. Let's say the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, they all do this. So you have games, multiple games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You also probably are going to bump up against the NFL perhaps on Saturday. I mean, you're talking about a quagmire of games. We'll take a short break. Get your reaction to that right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We're back. It's been quite an afternoon. Squirrel, the voice of reason for the Finebaum Show, is next.
I don't know about that. It's been quite a few days for the show. I really enjoyed Friday and yesterday. I've been listening, sitting here eating my popcorn. But I think you got your bridges confused with Dwayne on Friday when you said you fly over that bridge all the time going to Grand Isle. You're thinking about the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway.
Yeah, you are correct, by the way.
Yeah, that is about a 30-mile bridge, but I don't think there's any bridge going to Grand Isle over maybe 3 or 4 miles long, and it mostly runs along the Bayou.
I thought maybe he lived somewhere where he had to cross that bridge, but hey, have you ever tried to make sense out of what he says?
Oh yeah, I mean I could relate to a lot. I mean I'm running around. I took my boat down to Grand Isle a couple of months ago, went snapper fishing for the weekend, and I used to work out of there, so I'm real familiar with Fouchon, Grand Isle, Louisville, all those places down there. But what's worse in your opinion, the self-promoting pony leaguers with their stale, pathetic jokes that they read on air, or the clowns that come on here with their playoff suggestions?
I think it's the playoff. I think it's the playoff suggestions, because the jokes have there is an end to the jokes.
Sure, maybe. Yeah, the guys with their playoff suggestions, I know they think they're brilliant, but they're literally wasting their time. They're wasting my time. They're wasting airways. I mean, nobody on that committee is going to take one suggestion they make. They're not listening. They have zero input, just like you said. So, for the sake of everybody, I wish they would just can it. And both of them, both groups make me want to throw up, to be honest with you. And speaking of people that make me want to throw up, people are already petitioning for the caller bracket.
Yeah.
Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Listen, I don't mind. Every once in a while, someone slips through the cracks. But Squirrel, as somebody who I consider to be one of the elders of this show, I ask you, bringing one of the most hackneyed debates in sports history up as your call to arms is probably not the ticket in.
Oh, no, that immediately disqualifies you right there. Mike can get in next year if he works hard between now and then.
Yeah, listen, you might say, hey, who's the greatest caller of all time? Jim from Crestwood versus Tammy. Just make it germane to the conversation as opposed to something that's probably been argued on every New York, LA, Chicago, Philly sports show 4 zillion times.
At least. But do me a favor this year. Put Johnny Trash in the bracket.
Was he not in there last year?
No, you remember?
Well, he'll definitely be in.
Do you not remember? He literally bitched and moaned for 3 months.
Oh yeah. After
the bracket was over, every call because you left him out of the bracket last year.
Who else would you? Any other bracket suggestions?
To leave on or to leave out?
Either one. We're all ears.
We'll be sure to have Sparks in there this year. That's
a good suggestion.
And again, I don't know what's up with my Birdman Joey, but he needs to call back in.
Yeah.
But and do me another favor too. Can you get James Carville on air?
I know James.
I know you do. You had him on the air one time.
Yeah, I've been with him since then. Did you see the thing he got into with Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah. I've been keeping up with him past several months. Trust me. And I would love for you to get that LSU hack on here, and let's turn it political.
Well, that's probably the main reason I really wouldn't want him on.
They got their ass kicked. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Well, you are correct about that. Let's try Trey up next. Hello, Trey.
Hey, Paul, I want to tell you something about LeBron and Michael, and then I got a question for you about Alabama basketball. Paul, I don't even think LeBron is close to the top 10. I mean, Paul, MJ never quit during a game and walked off the court. He never changed teams. He never quit, never opted out of an all-star game. He never took off a rest. He played one playoff game with 103-degree fever. He won 3 straight titles twice. In 87, 88, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star Game MVP, and all that kind of stuff. But, Paul, let me ask you this question, because we grew up about the same time. Can you imagine LeBron James playing against the bad boys of Detroit with Sally and Thomas and Rodman and Dumars and Mahorn and Dantley? LeBron James would never make it to the paint, and as soon as he paid the bad boys, he would have quit, would have never had an NBA season. He wouldn't have lasted in that type of thing because Michael Jordan took the physical punishment in the NBA like I've never seen before. Do you not agree, Paul?
I think you're selling LeBron James pretty short.
Okay. But, Paul, I always ask you on Mondays, but I wasn't available. Alabama basketball Saturday. I thought they played a lot. They got behind again. I thought they played better defense later on in the game. I thought they switched well. I thought they played better defense underneath the basket. But my question for you is this. What is going on with the tall white kid? I can't remember his name. What's going on with him? He has been lost. And I'm going to tell you something, Paul.
You're talking about Nelson?
Yes, what's going on with him? He's been MIA for about 3 games. Is he hurt?
I don't know, because I thought when the season began he was one of the better players on the team.
Well, Paul, they need him to go far in the tournament. They really, really do. So he really needs to step it up. So anyway,
I think Trey, thank you. I think I think there's a hangover on this team, and I really think it's incumbent upon Nate to bring them back effectively. I thought Saturday was a real good start. Let's go to Brad up next on the Zoom. Hey, Brad.
Hey, Paul, I'm not trying to keep this thing going, but, a knucklehead put out a way too early All-America list. And I guess last week when he was in Cabo, he was about 4 or 5 satchels deep in the beer sack when he put this out. But we talking about Wasserman, man. And he's got his quarterback as Lagway, DJ Lagway out of Florida. Lagway hadn't even played a full season yet. And there are 2 other quarterbacks in the SEC. I'll take over Lagway right now. And as much as I hate to say it, I'll take a little tenor quarterback before I would Lagway.
Remember the guy you were talking about's got a little red mustache.
He got a big red mustache, Paul. As a matter of fact, Paul, this is what pisses me off even worse. Dalen Everett. He's been starting at Georgia since he was a freshman. He's going to be a junior this year. Wasn't he the SEC championship most valuable player this year?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Guess what? He puts a guy that plays for Indiana that's been playing against high school talent ahead of Dalen Everett. And I'm saying that's the reason nobody respects you down here, or it's because of that trash you put out about players like you're putting on the damn list. It's incredibly stupid. That's why you have no credibility.
You got to remember he's Ari Wasserman. You don't expect anything out of him, do you?
Well, I expect 2 things out of him. He's going to take up air and he's going to take up space. That's about it. But hey, Paul, let me ask you this. Have you ever, how long have you been doing the caller bracket now? Years?
Oh, yeah. We started that, 15, 20 years ago.
Can you post up the winners so we can see them?
We'll have to go back. But yeah, I'll have to consult Pat Smith and some people, but we'll see if we can do that.